It was do or die for Benfica coming up against Sporting in a very important game this weekend, but Benfica just came up short after playing a good second leg of the Portuguese Cup, and then carrying that into this game. The early goal took everything away, and then again, Roger Schmidt with his late subs ended up costing Benfica the title. Yes or no? That and much more in another night, another podcast.
Hasta que no estás aquí dentro no sabes la grandeza de este equipo.
Quero o Benfica intimidar o adversário. Quero o manto sagrado entrar com vocês em qualquer estádio e assustá-los, pá! É isso que eu quero!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another edition of the Talking to the Dog Benfica podcast. My name is Alfredo Fumacic, your host of the Benfica podcast with me, Dave de Oliveira. What's happening, Dave?
What's going on, Alfredo? What's going on, Freddy's? Good to be back.
Or is it?
It was under. I was gonna say wish it was better under better circumstances here, but you know what? This is what the podcast is made for here. I think it's going to be one of those therapy session kind of nights. I hope I haven't seen my last Benfica match because the solar eclipse came by here this afternoon, and I may have caught a glimpse without the glasses on. So I hope I don't wake up tomorrow blinded by the eclipse, but. Because that would be a terrible way to watch the last Benfica game I ever watched is that Sporting debacle.
Dave, you would have been better off
Saturday.
looking directly into the sun, so you wouldn't have to watch this Roger Schmidt team again.
I think so. If that's gonna be the way the rest of the season goes, maybe I was onto something there. But we'll see how tomorrow morning works out.
Yeah, here we are. Want to say hello to the folks that are joining us in the chat: Diogo Reis, Jason Gaidola, Kevin Martins. I know there's some of you that are watching that are usually not active on the chat, but that's quite all right. You don't have to say anything. You can suffer in silence, like
Just
everyone
smash
else.
that like button.
Just smash that like button while you're at it. Yeah, look. So Chris is not here tonight, unfortunately. He couldn't be here. He did tell me that he had a lot to say. But unfortunately, he had some things going on, and he couldn't be on. But here we are. Dave and I are here. That's enough, right, Dave? You and I, as always, a dynamic
You and
duo.
I and the Freddies. We'll
You
keep
and
an
I
eye
and
on
the
the
Freddies.
chat.
That's right. We'll keep an eye on the chat. Make sure we mention some comments. But yeah. I don't know how everybody's feeling, but certainly I'm not too happy. I think that a lot of us still held out a glimmer of hope, at least, or thought that with the win against Sporting, that we could put the pressure on them, regardless of whether they had a game on hand. They still need to win that game. Or they still need to get a positive result. And then they had the trip to the Dragão will also get that despite what Porto has been doing as of late, I think it could have been an opportunity for them to lose. Instead, we know things didn't go our way. And I think that there's a couple things that we could talk about, and we'll discuss it when we'll get into the game. But certainly, I think it wasn't for the lack of effort by the players. And I think that even, Dave, all season, what we saw, we never saw a lack of effort by the players. If anything, we always saw that there was a positive attitude for the players. There's guys that kind of they disappeared during a game. And there's not much that you could do about that. But the coach has to be able to recognize. The coach has to be able to see that there's guys that clearly underperforming. you now have 5 substitutions that you could look at your bench, and that Benfica bench is probably the most stacked bench that I've seen in a while. All right, for Benfica, not even in the JJ days did we have a bench that was so deep and with talent. So 5 substitutions, you got to be able to read the game, and you can't be expecting that one of these guys, whether it's Di Maria, which I don't think he had as bad of a game as Rafa did, but you can't expect those guys to something happened at leave it to chance. Something you have to take control of what you can control. And what Roger Schmidt can control is the decisions that he makes in terms of bringing someone on, in terms of identifying who's not performing well, and make the changes. And clearly, that has been the story all season has been with Roger Schmidt struggling to read the game from the bench and seeing what the game really needs. And I think that's been the story all season. But anyway, I'm just talking a little bit to give the chance for people to join us. We're coming to you today a day earlier. Got some plans this week. I'm not going to be available tomorrow. I'm traveling for work on Wednesday. But here we are. We didn't want to leave you out without a podcast. So on tonight's podcast, we'll recap the Sporting game as I've been already discussing that. We'll look ahead to the quarterfinals of the Europa League, which is the only competition that we still have good chances. Depends on how you look at it. And we'll also look at the Moreirense that comes up this weekend on Sunday. Moreirense, who tied us the first round. And Dave, when we talk about the season as a whole and look back at the season, Benfica didn't really lose this championship on this game. I think that there's a lot of points that Benfica lost, and the game against Moreirense was one of them. That should have left us, had we done our job and gotten the results that we were supposed to, that our team on paper proves to be better than any team in this league. If we had gotten those results, we wouldn't have probably needed this game against Sporting to get into the running. We would have been in the running, if not running away with the title.
Yeah, there's been years past where we've become champions and we've lost derbies, we've lost classicos, but really it's our competition that ends up dropping points against these mancouges that we like to call it. But this year it's us dropping points to the mancouges, and really first half of the season we were able to make up those points against our so-called rivals, but second half dropping those points and also not winning those games that on paper we should be winning, it just makes that climb up the mountain that much more difficult. And season's coming to a close here, still not mathematically eliminated, but it's looking dimmer and dimmer as each week goes by, especially with this poor result this past weekend.
Yeah, no, understanding how consistent Sporting has been in finding ways to win, while at the same time Ruben Amorim doing a great job managing the team and managing his squad, rotating the squad, because understanding that this is a long competition. They were involved in a lot of competitions, much like Benfica. And I think that Ruben Amorim has done a really great job in managing his squad, and you could tell that there's some tired legs in that squad. There's guys that are not able to play all 90 minutes, but he's done a great job. But just let's get into the game. So as I mentioned, somebody asked me what was the lineup. I just said, well, usually when the team performs well, he repeats the same lineup. It's like it's the same recipe, right? While Sporting made five substitutions from the game of the Portuguese Cup, right? So as any smart coach would do. You look at the context of the game, and you basically you have a squad that you trust. You have players that you trust, and you line up in a way that you feel is going to give you the best options to get the desired result. And whether the desired result was to win the game or tie in the game, I thought that Ruben Amorim was much smarter than Roger Schmidt in the way that he lined up the team, and also in the way that he read the game in the second half and made the changes that he needed to make, which I think made all the difference. But yeah, so same lineup, and Benfica really comes into this game and right off the bat, I mean, not even a minute in, and you're already down a goal in your opponent's stadium. So whatever plans you had, and I don't know if the plans were derailed in terms of what Roger Schmidt's game plans were for suffering, but still, I mean, you suffer that game, you suffer that goal, you understand that you have to chase the result, you understand that you need to win the game. So I think that there's a different approach in terms of how the team goes into this match, because now you can't really have that period where you're kind of feeling things out, see how Sporting is lining up, matching up pieces here and there, closing up holes. Benfica had to go at it. But yeah, 1-0. Defense too passive. Tony Silva gave up turned over the ball. Pot got past Tinu and Ba, and it was just too easy for Sporting to get on the board. In the 12th minute, we had the Rafa shot, the Rafa special, like a good look at the goal. But it is what it is. It is Rafa.
No. I think we're not going to let him off the hook. I know we may or may not be in the minority or the majority. I don't know, depending on which way the wind is blowing. But there is still a camp out there that wants to re-sign Rafa, but
yeah,
see you later. See you later. We talk about there's spots in the museum for players like Rafa and those who have come before him, and I'm sure he will be looked at as one of the greats of this era. But it's time. I won't shed a tear for when Rafa leaves, especially I on it, and you've alluded to it, Alfredo. When he's having such a poor match, not only in this match, the match before, he didn't do anything against Sporting, and Rogers' stubbornness to leave him on there. I don't know if that's. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's massaging Rafa's ego or trying not to piss him off if they are still doing some contract negotiation. I don't know what it is, but you gotta make a tough decision. It wasn't even a tough decision, to be honest, because he's having a poor game. You got to take him out there. But if I'm in the minority, so be it. But I won't shed a tear when Rafa leaves at the end of the season if he doesn't resign.
Yeah, well, I mean, Dave, you know how I feel about Rafa, and certainly, I'm very much opposed for Benfica to sign Rafa, and I've been saying that, for a few months now. So I'm not just saying that because of the debacle this Sunday, but yeah, and. A lot of guys make the arguments like Rafa is the only guy that could create things regardless of how many goals he misses. But let's take a step back, and why is Rafa the only guy that creates things? Is it because Rafa is that much better than everyone else, or is it because the team doesn't play well enough to produce chances and to produce gameplay and game flow that will allow for every single player on the 11 to play at their potential? So to me, that's the argument, right? Because we don't have anything like Rafa, his explosiveness, his touch, his technique, his this and that, yada yada yada, whatever you want. But at the end of the day, it's just like, if you had a team that played to its potential, to the level that we know this team could play, Rafa wouldn't be the standout player that everybody thinks we need to sign, because without Rafa, we're nothing. We're nothing because the coach can't put this team to play the way that they're supposed to be playing. So that's the problem. You can't depend on a player like Rafa, because you know that Rafa, in terms of by Seferovic's measure, Rafa probably misses more goals than Seferovic ever did, and Seferovic missed a lot of goals. But I mean, if the team is playing to their potential and is playing well, and the coach has everybody dialed in, and everybody knows the routines, and everybody knows the dynamics and the movements, and they follow it, we shouldn't be sitting here and saying we depend on Di Maria, or we depend on Rafa, or we depend on XYZ. The whole team should be contributing to goals, should be contributing to the flow of the game, to the good performances, not just Rafa. So I'm not a Rafa fan. I don't know if I've ever been a Rafa fan. We always thought that Rafa came up short for the money that we spent on him, and at the time it was a Portuguese record. I think 18 million, if I'm not mistaken, that we paid for Rafa a few years back. And Rafa has been always inconsistent in terms of his final touches and his decisions in the final third, and that's the reason why Rafa is still in Portugal, because of that. But take away all of that, right? And my personal feelings on Rafa, I think that a player at his age is commanding a big salary. And I think that Benfica is doing the right thing, but not giving in to his salary demands when you're looking at a player that's entering or may have already be and is at 30 years old. And Dave, you could probably tell me that, but I think he is 30 or 31.
Yeah, and what are we re-signing him just to hopefully cash in on and try to recoup some fund? Yeah, he's exactly 30 years old. So what is 30 going on 31 in May? At this point, we never made. You alluded to the big money splash that we spent to get him from Braga. We never recouped or doubled those funds, which I'm sure the board and the club would have expected when making that and spending that type of money on a Portuguese player. So the only way I see him re-signing is if they think there's a market for him later down the road. But he's going to be 31 by the time the next season starts. It's kind of wash your hands, thank you, but time to move on and get somebody else in that position.
Yeah, Jason Gaidola here. Rafa is too one-dimensional. A lot of holes in his game, and it got exposed. Yeah, I think that I think it's easy for teams to nullify Rafa, right? If Rafa has space in front of him, then he's gonna do what he's gonna do. He's gonna put a ball past somebody and beat him with speed. But if he's not giving any space, Rafa's gonna be nullified. But anyway, onto the game. So yeah, we would end up getting the tying goal in the dying minutes of the first half, and I thought it was deserved. I thought the score going into the half was deserved. I thought that Benfica, after the early goal, they chased, and I thought that for at some point the feeling from the stands was palpable, and I think that every once in a while the camera would pan to the stands, and you saw a lot of Sporting fans nervous, even though their team was winning, and then giving up the tying goal at the end of the half. I thought it really left. Sporting in a poor position. I thought that Benfica started not too bad in the second half. We had that shot by Gyökeres that hit the crossbar in the 53rd minute. Then in the 70th minute, the first substitution by Roger Schmidt. Cabral came in for an exhausted Tankstead. And then towards the end of the game, that was the only sub that we made. Sporting scores 90 plus, gets the go ahead, and also 90 plus, and I think that might have been like 2 or 3 minutes into at a time. Koksu comes in for Rafa, Leonardo comes in for Neres. And that's the story of the game. I think that we didn't lose this game because we played poorly. I think we lose this game because of Roger Schmidt's inability to read the game and to really understand what the game was needing. Guys clearly underperforming. And you just got to say, fuck it. This guy is underperforming. I'm not going to be able to get anything out of this guy. Throw some fresh legs on there and see if there's some inspiration from those fresh legs, or at least a better effort. I mean, how long do you wait for a guy to do something when you're 70 minutes into the game? And yet you're waiting for a moment of inspiration by Di Maria or Rafa to change this game when you have weapons on the bench that you could have brought on.
And it's gotten to the point now that this has got to affect the morality of those guys that are on the bench. They got to think, well, I don't have the trust in the coach that if they are called upon in these big situations, they're not coming in with the 100% mindset, because he waits to the very end. If on the flip side of it, you look at Ruben Amorim, he makes all 5 of his substitutions by the 80th minute is his last substitution, and we get that one sub in the 71st, and then after the goal is okay, let's make these last two. But that by that point it's already too late, right? So you've talked about this bench being deep, but I'm sure this has to play some sort of something on the player's psyche here when they're not being called upon, or when they are called upon, it's in garbage time and time that doesn't mean anything, or there's not enough time to really change a game too, right? So I've taken a lot of arrows for Roger Schmidt, and
you have, Dave.
I do see that. I do see the end of the line is coming for Roger, for good or bad. I don't like how this club goes through coaches at the first sign of troubles. They think if Roger doesn't last this season, this will be the 5th or 6th in 5 years, and that's got to be concerning. There, you want you want any club, any successful club, to have some sort of stability. And I don't like that at the first sign of trouble, or at the first sign of that you feel things are going wrong, that we'll just switch up the coach and hope that things go right this way. It's not a way that successful clubs run.
Yeah, look, I was trading a couple tweets with Carlos Amaro earlier this afternoon, and I am also of the mindset that continuously changing coaches at the first sign of adversity is not good in terms of the project, right? Whatever you set out, when you first sign that coach, you don't sign the coach for 1 year, for 1 season, for 2 seasons. You sign him for more because there's a project. There's a belief that you have in that coach. There's a belief that you have in the squad that you have. There's a belief that you have that you're in a good financial situation, that if there's some key players that leave, that you're able to replace them. But let's be realistic here, right? Roger came in. Everybody loved Roger last season. Did extremely well. Won the championship last season. Had a good run in the Champions League. Sets up perfectly for the second season, right? despite losing some key players, right? Lost Gonçalo Ramos, lost Grimaldo, right? And those are the two that I kind of like. Enzo left mid-year. I don't even think that we could count on Enzo, but I do understand the impact that he had in the beginning of the season. But you lose Grimaldo. You don't adequately replace him, right? The guy that you paid 20 million for or whatever it was ends up being a bust, right? And I think that when you spend that much money on a player, you can't afford to miss hit. It's got to be a hit. It's got to be a guy that comes in and from day one, he's on that left side playing. Regardless, injuries, whatever, we got rid of Ristic, we got rid of Gilberto, we kept Jurasek, we picked up Bernat. So there was the coach and the technical staff felt that this was good enough. This would hold us. My biggest thing in not looking at any of those individual cases of players that are gone, you have the basis of a squad, right? That was the majority of the players were in last season's squad, right? A squad that had a very good number of successes and a very good season overall, right? You go into season 2 with the president, and I don't think the president has the president is not rid of fault. Let's just say that. We go into the season with the same basis of squad. The president gives you money or allows you to go grab this player, go grab this player, go grab this player. And at the end of the day, this team is not better than last year's. And look, I'm all for cycles because I understand that with every cycle comes down years, right? There's rebuilding years, you lose key players, there's rebuilding years that happen. But coming off of last season and the season that we had, and then understanding that you went and spent $100 million on players, and you're playing worse that you've ever had. I'm sorry, but I can't tolerate that type of incompetency. I just can't. How is Roger not able to give continuation to what he did last season with basically the same players? We picked up Di Maria. We didn't have Di Maria, right? We had a chance to go and grab a forward in the winter transfer window that could have came in and impacted the team. We picked up a kid from Brazil, and regardless what his future holds, as seen most of the second half of the season from the bench. So I don't know. I'm all for cycles, and I'm all for the continuation. I'm all for not being too quick on the trigger to fire a coach. But at this point, who is accountable for the failures of this season? That's what I want to know. Is the coach accountable? Is the president accountable? I'm sure both of them have part in it, but you can't fire a president. And if the coach comes out and says in pressers, I am the one responsible for this. This is my fault because I'm the one that coaches these players and I'm the one that manages this team. How did you not hold Roger Schmidt accountable and you're going to give him a pass for the miserable season that we've been having? And I hope that we do well in the Europa League, right? I hope that we do well, and maybe that's going to be a saving grace. But I just think that at the end of the season, you come out, and regardless of whether the champion of the Europa League is also a club that's going to get the automatic seed into the Champions League, which means that Benfica won't have to play a qualifier. Because Benfica being the highest seed, they go automatically in. They will take the seat of that team, right? At the end of the season, it's very short. Just making the Champions League for me is very short for the amount of money that we paid and for Roger's second year. Second year should always be an improvement on a first year if you're a good coach. But I don't know, Dave. I'm kind of at my wits end. I understand where people coming from in terms of the people that side with Roger. Not the people that side with Roger so much, but it's more the people that side with the fact that let's give continuity to something. It's never good to restart something, go all over again. That constant interruption is not good for a club that wants to be consistent and win trophies. I get that. But what do? Are we supposed to look away and say, hey, Roger, here, you can come and coach the team next year again, when there's clearly things that we see in terms of shortcomings that Roger Schmidt has, and one of them being the substitutions, and one of them is managing the squad properly. I don't know, Dave. Help me.
And Roger has never been that type of manager to see out long-term projects either. I'm just going through his stats here. He's already has 103 games for Benfica. His longest tenure with a single club was Leverkusen with 125 games.
That's what, 3 seasons?
He finishes 2.5. If he finishes out the rest of this season as manager with Benfica, that'll be his second longest tenure, which is saying something. That's just 2 complete seasons. So he's never been one for long-term projects, which is, if I'm not mistaken, when he signed that initial contract, he didn't want. I don't think he came out and said he didn't want to stay here for longer, but I think he made a point that he's never one to stay at a club for long term, but he's never been a manager for that brings long term stability to a club. So if he's here past this season, he'll be on pace to break that Leverkusen record that he has with 125 games with the single club. But I don't see that. I don't see that happening.
Yeah, let me read some comments here. I don't think there's much else that we could talk about the game, but I'll let you do some. I'll let you do some stats when the time comes. Zach is saying Schmidt is trash. Time to go. Diogo Reis says, I don't think we should fire Roger Schmidt. I think this team will play better without a system relying on Rafa. Red Baron says, and Benfica's direção is setting this up to blame the coach, and we'll have another preseason spending 100 million, and we'll all be happy and applaud. Diogo Reis says injuries and poor performance from both fullbacks will be the season's Achilles heel. Jason Gaidola saying once Rafa's speed is gone, he ain't worth a bag of balls. Diogo Reis says, in my opinion, Rafa is a winger. Speed is the best used out wing. Speedy guy. The middle will always be marked out easier because there's more opposition players in the interior of the field. Look, there's quite a few opinions here on a chat, but at the end of the day, I think like any other Benfiquista, we have to question what went wrong. What went wrong that after spending 100 million, we couldn't.
And who's making the decisions and pointing these players out?
Well,
it's one thing to spend the money, and then it's another to miss on most of these acquisitions. I know that I don't know. I've what we've been told is that Rogers had a hand in these signings, but has he come out and said that? I don't know.
Well, but Rui Costa has said that that every player that Benfica got was with the agreement of the coach, right? Kokshu is a Roger Schmidt buy. Jurasek is a Roger Schmidt buy. Cabral is a Roger Schmidt buy. I can't. The only guy that I could say that came this season without Roger Schmidt pointing him out was Di Maria. But as a coach, you don't say no to Di Maria. I mean, Rui Costa comes to you and says, "Hey, we got a chance to grab Di Maria. Do you want him or you want to pass?" And what coach in their right mind is going to pass on Di Maria? That's the only guy I can think that was brought on without him pointing it out first. And Rui Costa's mentioned that he gave everything that the coach asked for. And I don't think Rui Costa is free of fault in this. I think that he has a lot of fault in the way that the club has been run. A good football player doesn't always end up being a good president or a good manager. So it kind of makes you think. Let's see what else. Red Baron said we have to question the decision to renew the coach's contract for another 2 seasons last year. Yeah. Zach says Marcos Leonardo is definitely not a Schmidt signing. You don't think so? It's possible. It's possible that he's not a Schmidt signing. Because had it been a Schmidt signing, maybe he gets as many opportunities as Jurasek got when we got him. I don't know. I'm kind of at a loss here, man. I really don't know what to think. Dealing with Roger Schmidt this year and watching the way Roger Schmidt has coached his team and managed his team leaves me scratching my head more often than not. It's just we don't understand. It's the late subs. It's the inability to see what's needed, the reads that you need to make. And he's got 3 guys on the bench with him. Don't tell me that those guys are not seeing the same things that we're all seeing at home. It's not only us at home, but there's a lot of experts, a lot of journalists, a lot of experts, a lot of former coaches that have identified and singled out the same problems that we have. So who's wrong? Is it us? Is it the experts? Or is it Roger Schmidt? I don't know. I'm at my wit's end. I can't wait for the season to end. I know that maybe we should be getting excited about this Europa League run, which we'll get into a little bit. But I think at this point we have said goodbye to the title with this loss. It could have been a different game. I thought that Benfica played enough to beat Sporting, but again, it's those little changes, the little tweaks, the little reads that make a whole lot of difference. And I think that if Roger Schmidt at the 60th minute makes a couple changes that he needs to, takes out Rafa, puts in somebody else, maybe he puts another forward up front. Maybe he plays with 2 forwards because you need to win the game. I don't know. It's all fine and dandy when you're Monday morning quarterbacking, right? But the thing is that we've been saying so many of these things all season here, and I've always said that, look, Benfica can't always win by 5-0, or Benfica can't always turn on the style and play teams out of the park. But playing like the way we have been up until these 2 games, we're always going to be closer to a negative result than a positive one. I've been saying that. So regardless of whether we're 1 point off the lead and we're still in the Portuguese Cup and we could still do something and we're still in the Europa League and what do you have now? You have the Europa League, which I think I'm gonna sit here and question if the team is in a good mental state, if they're able to reset and focus on the Europa League after this debacle, after this shit show. All right, Dave. I've been talking a lot, Dave.
No. I was gonna say before we wrap this game up, and ultimately, I think the the Sporting late minute goal there kind of changes the talking points of this game. But as the resident referee on this podcast, how did you make of Suarez Diaz's performance on Saturday? I know we didn't even talk about it, but Di Maria's hand, I wouldn't call it so much a punch. I think Bot made a meal of it, but that incident in the first half, I know the Sporting fans were wanting a red card for that, and then the Otamendi Gyökeres challenge that got Gyökeres called back, and I know there was a Yeoman missed second yellow card too. There was fouls on both sides that were missed, but just wanted your thoughts on it before we wrap up the game.
Yeah, look, for you guys that know Artur Soares Diaz, he's the guy that needs to be a protagonist. He needs to have a part on these games, and oftentimes the best referees and the best performances by referees are performances that you didn't even realize that the referee was on the field. But Artur Soares Diaz, he likes to be the center of attention. The Di Maria thing, I thought there was. Did he already have a yellow card, Dave? Or no? That was his first yellow card.
No, that would have
I
been his
thought
first.
that was with closed hand. For me, that's an ejection. And look, Di Maria's been around the world. He's played in some of the best leagues. 30-something years old, veteran player, has seen all kinds of referees, knows how referees act, knows what he can do and what he can't do, is old enough to control his temper. And look, if football is a game of passion, I get that. But when you're a veteran like that, you don't put yourself in a position where you're kind of gonna leave that to the interpretation of the referee. Luckily, he came out on the right side. But I'm a Benfiquista, and I'll tell you right now that that was deserved of a red card. Close fist. I think that the only thing that saved them was the fact that Pot tried to make a meal out of it. And I thought all of this faking. But still, you go to the VAR, and the VAR tells you, look, the guy had a close fist, and he swung. He swung the other way, and he hit him. That's all he really had to say. This has nothing to do with football. It's assault, almost, if you want to look at it that way. The other play that you mentioned, I thought that Ulma could have picked up the second yellow. I agree. The other play that you mentioned, I noticed that. I noticed that on that corner that Otamendi got hit from behind. And that wasn't even a reviewable play. Nobody even reviewed that. Nobody was even talking about it. I don't think that, from what I remember, I don't remember Otamendi making a big deal out of it, that he had been hit in that corner.
No, I'm talking about the one where it was Otamendi, Gyökeres on a breakaway that Otamendi falls down and doesn't look like there's much contact.
Wrong call.
But that's on the linesman on that one. That's not.
Yeah, the linesman was the one that made the call.
Yeah.
And the referee has a much better angle than the linesman, but goes to the linesman because the linesman is much closer to the play. But I think the linesman gets it wrong and the referee gets it wrong also. But I think that at that point, the referee, as a team, the referee has to trust the linesman and has to believe the linesman made the right call. But I thought that was a shitty call. I thought that there was no foul in there. There was one of the most ridiculous calls that I've ever seen called. No, so I don't think it was that. And what other play, Dave? I think, look, at the end of the day, I mean, I saw somebody put something on Twitter and Facebook that there's lines. That Gyökeres is offside when Jenny Katamu hits the second goal, if I'm not mistaken.
The first one.
The first one.
Yeah.
that he was in front of the ball. Look, at the end of the day, you can't look at this game and feel that you lost because of the referee. You can't. You have to control your destiny. You have to take control of what you can control. You can't leave it up to the referee to give you the calls. I mean, if there's anything that you can't complain about is the referee, because you got the Di Maria, which you would have been gone if I recall correctly. That was in the first half still.
Middle of the first half, yeah, still first half in the middle of the first half.
Bro, Di Maria goes out. That's it. That game is done. And I thought he got that wrong. So I don't think, as a Benfiquista, I don't think that we have reasons to complain in terms of the refereeing. Is he a pompous asshole that just likes to be the protagonist? Yes. But I don't think that he had a hand in how the score turned out. Yeah. Diogo Reis saying no Portuguese refs are going to the Olympics. Yeah, because they're awful. And on top of it, they don't have an institution that protects them. They don't have an institution that will stand behind them and tell them, don't be afraid to make the calls against Porto, to make the calls against Benfica, to make the calls against Sporting. Make them without hesitation, regardless of the club status. And I think that a lot of referees feel that they're not supported and feel that they live in a world that they could easily be coerced, that they could easily be intimidated. So they just live in this world of fear and always stepping on eggshells. And then I think that when they go outside of Portugal and officiate in the European, they're so used to what their reality is that they have a hard time switching gears to do international. But this is something that's cultural. It's not, it's nothing else. It's culture. It's TVs talking about the same play, showing 50 million angles, frames, slow motions of plays, dissecting every referee's job, that referees feel that they're so pressured to make the right call. And at the end of the day, they're human, just like us. They're going to make mistakes. But the thing is that the culture that we've gotten them to is such a culture of fear and anxiety that ends up conditioning the way these guys perform. And I'm not saying that all of them are great referees and they've just been affected by the culture. There's some horrible ones out there, but there's some good ones also. But those good ones are also, they're affected by all of what Portuguese football is these days, which is not the best. So, does that answer your question, Dave? Sorry, long-winded. Give us the stats so we can move on.
Let's wrap this up here. So this was the quickest goal Benfica's conceded since December 2021. That came against Porto in the Taça de Portugal. That Evan Nielsen also got a first-minute goal that night. Benfica's 8th defeat of this season doubles the amount of defeats from all of last season, and first time that Benfica has lost at the Avalad and the Dragão in league competition since the 2000-2001 season.
Yep. So that should tell you everything.
And those were dark, and those are considered our darkest days in the club's history that time.
All right, switching gears here to the Europa League quarterfinals, which is the only competition that we could still maybe hope that Benfica could show themselves in at this level that they chose 6 months later to show. I mean, the team's been in training since July 3rd. And now it's April, and this is when you show up and when you start showing some of your real value, real talent. I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy, man. But I think that there's something wrong with this team. There's something wrong with this coach. There's something wrong with this president, and it's hard for me to kind of identify with the way this team is played and the way this team has been run. It's just I just can't. I can't identify because, and call me old fashioned. Maybe I come from a time that Benfica used to smash teams and Benfica used to intimidate teams. Now I don't think there's a team that comes to Stadio Luz that feels intimidated. But that's a
Eh,
conversation for another time.
This you've alluded to that this is the only competition we have going for us. To At this point, it's what at minimum it's Europa League finals or bust, right? I don't think getting past Marseille, we can say, oh, it was a successful season because we made the semifinals of a Europa League. I think in bare minimum might even not even be a Europa League finals. It might have to be winning the whole thing. But uh, even if we were to get through Marseille here and get to the semifinals, I don't think you would be able to say it's been a successful season.
Yeah. No, I think you got to. I don't know. I think anything short of a trophy, maybe in a final appearance. But here's the thing, Dave, and I think that that's something that Cristiano hammers on all the time. It's the exigência. Where's our demand for better? Where's our demand for Benfica to be Benfica? For the club that we've fell in love with, watching as little kids, whether we picked it up from our parents, grandparents, or may you, this is not a club that you grew up with and that you identify with. So for us to say that, yeah, we went to the final and that makes it okay. No, it's not okay. You have to expect more. You have to demand more. You have to want more. And I think that Benfica has to every game that they go into, they have to win. Now the situation with the Europa League, and Benfica will play Marseille on Thursday on the first leg at Stade de Luz. But the thing with the Europa League, you got Liverpool, who will most likely need to focus on the Premier League because I think that's going to be their primary focus rather than the Europa League. I think the Europa League is going to be just something that they may want to go for it once the Premier League is out of reach. You got Atalanta also that's in the dogfight for the championship also. So we don't know what's going to happen with those teams. I remember last year in the quarterfinals of the the Champions League, everybody thought that that Benfica was going to get past Inter, and then face who? No,
Would have been a winner of Milan Napoli.
Right.
AC Milan and Napoli, yeah.
And everybody thought that Benfica is going to win, and it's going to be Benfica and Napoli. And then Benfica has a very good chance to go to the final. And it turned out not to be anything like that at all. So, football is a crazy game. So we'll see what happens. But I can't honestly say that a presence in the final would be something that will wash away the rest of the season, Dave. I just can't. Marseille is currently in 8th. There's been some turmoil there. There's arguments in the locker room from what I've been reading. So I don't know. It's anybody's game, I think, at this point. I don't know what state Benfica is going to arrive at this Marseille game in after losing the championship. I don't know if you could say losing. Mathematically, we're still alive, but that was, to me, a nail in the coffin. Marseille has been the Europa League. They didn't qualify for the Champions League. They weren't the qualifiers for the Champions League. Didn't make that. In the Europa League group stages, they finished second with 11 points in a group that had Brighton, which finished first, Ajax and AEK from Greece. They finished second, as I mentioned. Eliminated Shakhtar in the first knockout game, and is a team that is really looking at this Europa League campaign as maybe their saving grace, because eighth is not really respectable for a team of Marseille's pedigree. What do you think? What do you have? You had any stats on Marseille on this game, Dave?
No, just the hammering on the eighth, and they're coming into this match on a 4-match losing streak. Things are not going right for them, but we can't say that things are going right for our club either, right? It's two teams not playing at their top form at the moment. Historically, against Marseille, 2 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat in the previous 4 meetings, and we've previously met them at in the Europa League at the quarterfinal stage. We won 3-2 on aggregate before moving on to the semifinals. I believe it was a 2009-2010 season.
Yeah. Zach saying Marseille are awful. I don't see us getting past them with this coach. Even if Marseille is awful, we still can't get past them with this coach. Red Baron saying Marseille has 4 losses in a row, and now they're missing a bunch of players. If we don't get to the semis, we're crap. Yeah, but these are the things that we kind of been saying all season. This should be easy. Play Toulouse. Yeah, it's fine. We'll do fine. And then we struggled against Toulouse.
Same thing with Rangers. It's always been like that. It seems like whenever we have the easy draw on paper, we fail to rise up and take care of business. But we'll have to see how the team responds, and really how they respond Thursday will tell you how they're gonna finish off this season. If they're gonna
Yeah, I agree with you, Dave.
if they limp there and whimper their way through on Thursday, and there's not much conviction, that's how you're going to see this team finish off the season, unfortunately.
Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, Red Baron, Alan Kardec scored. Yeah, I remember that pink jersey, gloves, was cold in the Velodrome, and he got that winning 3-0. Diogo Reis says Jota Silva, should we buy him, even though he's a Portista? Oh, I don't know if he's a Portista or not. Dude, think about what we have in the wings. We sent Sheldrup away. We got Prestiani playing in the B. Those are all future projects. Why would you go grab Jota when you already have these players on contract? Yeah, that's my take on that. No, I wouldn't. I'm not. I recognize the talent that he has. It just, I don't know. It just doesn't strike me as a Benfica player, that personality. And I think that we have better. So anyway, this Thursday, 8 p.m. local at Stadio de Luz. I'm sure the fans will be there supporting the team as they always are, as they were in the Alvalade. But yeah, look, at this point, it is what it is. We'll see what comes of it. I think it's one of those games that if we played like we played in these past couple games, with the difference of making the right changes and putting balls away, I think that we have a good chance. Then after that, we'll see. We'll see what happens with between Liverpool and Atalanta. I don't think that we've beaten Liverpool in the past. And I think that this team, if they played to their capabilities, they'll be a tough bone to chew for any team. Next up, Dave, Moreirense comes up this weekend, Sunday 8:30, local at Stadio Luz. What's Moreirense up to this year?
They're currently in 6th with 43 points from 12 wins, 7 draws, 9 defeats. Their last 5, 1 win, 2 draws, 2 defeats. Historically, 23 wins, 8 draws, 2 losses. However, the last 10 It's been pretty evenly fought. 4 wins, 5 draws, 1 defeat, and our last victory against them came all the way back in August of 2021. We've got 3 draws heading into this match in our previous 3 meetings against them.
Yeah. 0-0 in the first round. I mentioned that, right? Yeah, I think see how we play against Marseille and then see how we play. I mean, we still need to finish the rest of the season strong because we need to, at this point, clinching that second place is what we should be focused on, along with the Europa League. If you think that the Europa League is gonna save some face or give some kind of appearance of what Benfica should be. It's been a struggle this year in European competition, and we've had very favorable results, Dave. So we'll see what happens.
On that, with Arshness picking up that late red card, who do we see there? Do we see
Morata.
Carreras? Oh, I forgot about Morata. I was even going to try to see if there's a case for Bernat getting fit time to try to make that his position again, but I forgot. Roger likes to put square pegs in round holes in that position, so good shout out on that one there. Forgot about Moratu.
Yeah. So I don't know. It's amazing how we grab players and then players just don't play. And I know Carreras has had his struggles, but there's been times that we could have been playing, that we were winning, that he could have been playing and he didn't. So I think it's Moratu. I think that Bernat's still at a very, very fragile state in terms of conditioning. And after sitting out for that long, I think it's very hard for a guy to be ready to play at a very competitive level. We haven't even seen him on a B. Could have given him a run on a B. Just let's see how you feel. Compete in the B for 45 minutes and see how we feel. But I don't think that Bernat's ready. Was he on the bench against Sporting? I think he was, right?
No.
He wasn't?
No, not against Sporting.
Right.
He made a random bench appearance against Shavs, I want to say. Yeah, it was against Shavs, and then he hasn't made the bench since.
Yeah. Red Baron saying there's one other question I have. We had the option to postpone the Moreirense game so we could go fresh in the second leg in France. Why didn't we? That's a good question. I thought I heard something like that I think that I'm not sure, but I think that the league did say that that they weren't approached or something like that. I'm not really sure. But it wouldn't
because on the flip side, Marseille has a break. They got their game postponed.
Yeah, and the thing that we see all the time is the leagues themselves in each country being very understanding of the demanding schedule and being accommodating to their clubs, right? And we don't see that from the Portuguese league. But I thought I saw something with that because there was somebody that was questioning that, and I think that somebody had said that there was never talked about or Benfica didn't ask for it. I very much doubt that Moreirense would have offered resistant, or maybe I don't you know what, I don't know, Dave. I don't know, and Paul, I don't know, Paul. I don't know if something like that came up. But yeah, we'll see. I think that the biggest thing is Dave has mentioned, and is to damn. I didn't even say goodbye to our friends at Pema Media. I think that that the biggest thing is that we have to see how this team comes out of this loss, because this loss is very. It hurts. It hurts a lot. It hurts for us fans, and I don't pretend to think that players are robots and they don't have feelings and they don't have emotions and they don't have pressure and they lose sleep at night. I think some of them do. So I'm just curious to see how this team comes out of these two bad results against Sporting that kicked them out of both the Portuguese Cup and put the title as a mirage. I don't know how this team is going to respond. We'll see Thursday how the team responds, and then on Sunday when they play Moreirense. So I'm just curious to see what the approach is going to be. If we could play in the same manner that we played Sporting these past couple games, I don't know. Maybe that's a big ask, because usually these games between rivals, the motivation factor isn't. You don't really need to motivate players to play these games. They know it's a big stage. They know that there's a lot of eyes on them. They get up for these games. So I don't know. We'll see. But I'm curious to see what the team's response is going to be against Marseille and then Moreirense over the weekend. I think that the team has to realize that, the support they've been getting from the fans has always been there, and I think that they're in debt. They're in debt with the fan base. I think, at least that's what I would like to think. That I feel that this team owes me. They owe all of us.
And if this goes south on Thursday, it could be a very hostile environment. Though the support is always there, but this could already go south. Not necessarily for the players, but definitely for Roger Schmidt. Especially if we're behind and he hasn't made any substitutions. It's the 80th minute. Don't be afraid to, if you see a couple of those white handkerchiefs come out.
But Dave, does
Thursday.
does that surprise you anymore? The fact that he doesn't
not
make
at
the
all.
subs?
Not at all. Not at all.
I mean, that whole incident, and obviously we don't condone that type of attitudes at the stadium, but that whole incident with the bottle at Stade de Luge, that's all that stems from his inability to make the right reads. And granted, nobody should be throwing a bottle just because he's taking out Joan Neves and you're against it. But I think it's an accumulating of poor decisions, of having your hands in your pockets and not doing anything about the visible problems that we could all see that are going on the field. I think there's a lot of frustration built up, and I think that a lot of guys have already fired Roger Schmidt in their mind. A lot of Benfiquistas have probably already done that they feel that Roger Schmidt doesn't have the conditions to continue. So, we'll see. But I'm just curious to see how the team responds, because I think it's going to say a lot about the team's personality, the team's mettle. I don't know. Diogo Reis is saying that we bring Cabral, Tankstead, and Marcos Leonardo back next year. You don't have a choice with Marcos Leonardo, because the way that Marcos Leonardo has been used, he's clearly a future project. I would get rid of Tankstead, and I would get rid of Cabral also. I just think that we need to add two good pieces onto that forward line. Zach says that Schmidt treats Carreras like garbage for no good reason. He's a young player. Brought a young player and put him in a position where he was being extremely pressured in terms of performing, because Benfica didn't have anything else. So, I don't know. I've just had enough of this season. Look, I hope that the rest of the season goes well. I hope that the team shows some character from here until the end of the season. And regardless of us not winning the championship, or regardless how far we go in the Europa League, I think at the end of the season, I think that Rui Costa and Roger Schmidt need to sit down. They need to sit down and they need to figure out what went wrong, who should be accountable, whose head is going to roll, and what the understanding is for next season if he is to remain. I don't know. There's important conversations that need to be had between the president and the coach, because this is the president's coach. This was the coach that Rui Costa wanted. So now you live and die by your choices. And I think that if Rui Costa wants to continue with the cycle, there's has to be some changes made. Whether Roger Schmidt accepts those changes or whether he doesn't, then at that point Rui Costa needs to make a decision on whether he continues with Roger Schmidt. But certainly at this point, I think that there needs to be a coming to Jesus conversation between him and Roger Schmidt. I think that it becomes a situation that's going to be unsustainable, because if the fan base turns against Roger Schmidt, we're really going to put Rui Costa in a position where he may feel that he needs to make a decision to appease the fan base. I don't know. It's a head scratcher, Dave. I don't know what to think. I've never been into a season where it's just like there's glaring things that need to happen, they need to change, and they don't.
Yeah, and there's going to be time later on where we'll do a recap of the season. We'll dissect it, but it's unfortunate that we just got to go through the motions now to finish this season off. But we're already got one eye on the next season, and we're already thinking about what moves are already have to be made to get to next season. So just got to go through the motions, and then we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yep, that's all I got. Dave, always a pleasure. For you guys that joined us in the chat, and participated with your comments and your opinions, man, thank you so much. Red Baron, there's one other question I have. We had the option to postpone. Oh, I already asked that question. Sorry, I'm just repeating himself. Guys, always a pleasure. We'll come back. We'll be back next Tuesday. We'll break down this Marseille first leg and also the Moreirense. Hopefully 2 positive results. Come on, let's go, Roger Schmidt. We'd like to say goodbye to our PAMA media friends. If you want to continue listening to the rest of the show, you could follow us on our podcast and all the aggregators. I just needed to say that because I'm going to edit that in at the part that I'm going to cut. Take care, everyone. We'll see you next week. Thank you very much for all your support and for putting up with us. Sorry if it was if Positive Cristiano wasn't here to liven up the show. This is all I really got. Take care, everybody.